Welcome to Spaghetti Launchers, the worldbuilding podcast, where we throw spaghetti at the wall, and it is up to you what sticks. I'm Kyle.
I'm Ethan. Kyle, I don't feel like cooking today. How about we order some takeout?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that.
This is our first attempt at this new type of format called a Takeout episode, where we're going to take a property, a famous property, and we're going to only focus on that. We're going to talk about what makes this worldbuilding cool, take a couple worldbuilding ideas that they have, and then how we could maybe make them
our own.
Yeah.
How we can draw inspiration from all of the wonderful media that exists in the world around us.
Yeah, we frequently reference this type of media, but now we're just going to focus in a little bit more locked.
Yeah.
So
also, I'm gonna put an asterisk next to famous because we have also
we might do some shitty.
We might do some really. I have a theory that even the shittiest of spec fic movies, fantasy, sci-fi, there's always something cool.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Like, my obsession with the fucking hover boots from Jupiter Ascending will never die. Garbage movie. Terrible movie. Hover boots. So cool.
Yeah. Every piece of media has... Every piece of media that does world building has good world building in there that might get lost in a bad story or poor delivery, but the world building itself can always be cool. And sometimes the world building...
find it.
Yeah. Or the world building could be flawed, but we want to see how we can actually make it work.
Harry Potter.
So
we're not doing Harry Potter today.
On today's episode, we're going to start with Star Wars.
Oh, hell yes.
Yes. Big property, lots to sink your teeth into. Is an expansive universe, which we will not be able to get all through in one episode here because it's far too big and far too well
fleshed out.
Yeah, it's like the world building is fantastic. It's across so many different types of media. I, for one, love like the Old Republic stuff from the video games. I love the
expanded universe. I think it's so much. I'm not knocking everything that's come out of the Disneyverse. I think there's been some cool stuff, which I will talk about today. But the prison floor in Andor. But I generally am more of an EU guy myself.
Yeah, and the fact that Disney removed them from the canon is disappointing, but there's
it's now the Legends verse.
Yes, but there's still just in George Lucas's own crafting of the movies, there's just so much shit that's delicious.
It's so great. So
and worth noting, a lot of it created tropes that are now seeming like it's that they have the issue of like, well, where are the people who invented the idea, and now it's become too famous where people are like, well, that's just derivative. It's like, no, well, I made it. They have some of that problem.
Yeah. What do you think about a world that has a self-referential problem like that?
Yeah, it's just a difficult situation.
Like, it's just hard.
Yeah, it is hard to do anything in Star Wars these days unless you do kind of the Andor approach of removing yourself from all of the other stuff and be like, we will be in this little pocket of the universe that is
unexplored
and not bogged down by the Jedi versus Sith and Darth Vader and the Skywalkers and all like.
Absolutely,
it plays into it eventually, but it's not a part of it. So anyway,
but like they couldn't have a femme fatale like Sith assassin that turns into a hero without people going like, oh, that's just derivative of Mara Jade. It's like, well, but you liked Mara Jade Skywalker, so like, why are you upset now?
Is Mara Jade?
She was a Emperor's Hand. She was actually sent to kill Luke in the expanded universe, and then he like broke the Emperor. Like they ended up falling in love. And blah blah blah.
He like broke the spell, the curse.
It wasn't a spell. It wasn't a curse. She was just trained. He just like basically deprogrammed her.
Yeah, from the cult. Like broke the spell in like a metaphorical way.
Yeah. She's still a badass. I mean, like she wasn't like under mind control or anything.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Like you couldn't have a story like that without people saying, actually, that was Mara Jade.
Yeah. Anyway. There's so many small details. The blue milk, for instance, is like such like a subtle detail.
I love blue noodles in Andor.
What's his face is having cereal with blue milk, and it's just subtle in the background. It's not. They don't make a big thing out of it. Like look at the joke. Look at the reference.
It's just there.
It's just there. They do a great job of making the food feel so foreign. Like when Rey has to like she adds water to make
to rehydrate the portions.
Yeah, and I was like, that's and when like she trades scrap for portions, like that's good world building, setting the scene of what this place is, and like she's living in the hollowed out husk of an old AT-AT or something.
Yeah,
or like and you're like, okay, like that's good world building. The Sith and Jedi like are well built as entities,
as religions, as very distinct feeling religions with like their codes. It's incredible.
Yeah, Coruscant is fantastic. There's so much good shit.
Ecumenopolis.
Yeah,
Ecumenopolis.
But there's too much to get into. So why don't we let's dive into our ideas?
What do you just dive right into it, Kyle? Kick us off. What do you got?
Okay, I want to talk about the rule of two.
I love
because it's so good, and we
love the rule of two.
Everyone needs to talk about it in every context of Star Wars world building because it's one of the coolest things they ever did, and it is incredibly copyable. It is not
really easy.
It is not beholden to the Star Wars franchise. The Sith, like the Sith rule of two, where you have the master and the apprentice, and there can only be two Sith,
right.
And it's the master's, it's the apprentice's job basically to be hungry and to seek power, and then to supplant their master eventually.
When Darth Bane created it, his philosophy was one to embody the power and the other to seek it.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, and so you just have that, tethering forever. And in the movies, you see it with, Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine, and then you have Darth Maul, and then he died, and then and then you have Count Dooku takes
Darth Tyrannus, who's also very clearly trying to recruit Obi-Wan to help him beat Sidious. I mean, there's, for me, the ultimate expression of the rule of two. The best moment, speaking of Dooku, is the look that Dooku gives Palpatine when Palpatine tells Anakin to kill him.
Mm-hmm. Where he's like, oh, I'm actually going to replace you as my apprentice with this other guy.
Right.
Who
just beat you.
And who would be
why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
This is not about you. This is about power. But the look that Dooku gives him,
the ultimate betrayal,
is the ultimate betrayal. And in the novelization of Revenge of the Sith, which is spectacular, it's so good. Mm-hmm. The last line, it says the last line that Dooku thinks before Anakin cuts his head off is "Treachery is the way of the Sith."
Yeah.
But it's built into it because of the rule of two, because you are setting yourself up for conflict.
Yeah, you are not supposed to trust the other person.
No, at all.
You work together in many ways, but you are constantly trying to undermine each other.
Correct.
It is one of those it's an open rivalry.
Yeah.
It's a rivalry that everyone's
by design.
Into. Yeah, and by design makes it interesting.
Yeah.
So, in and of itself, fantastic. But I think what you can do is you can use that and apply it without the needing to kill the other guy. You can apply it in other contexts. So say you have a king and their heir, and their heir's job is to become politically powerful enough that they can usurp, say, their father or whoever has named, whoever is the king, and there's an open understanding of I will happily give you the throne. That is how this goes. But you need to be powerful enough to rule before I give it to you. Mm-hmm. So you need to gain that power. And if you get enough power that you become more powerful than me before I give it up,
or before I stop you from getting powerful,
then,
because that's the other part, is the one with power has to be working to prevent, their interest is.
I think in the context of Star Wars, I don't know what's up with with his hand right now. In the context of Star Wars, yes. I think you can remove that, though, because I want to make it a bit more of a friendly, less violent, evil, because the Sith rule of two is I'm trying to keep you away and you're trying to gain on me. But I think in other contexts, it's if you actively are able to pass me, then good. I can retire. Because I think you can use this. You can use this in the context of a king. You can use this for a blacksmith from Jungle Village. You can use this. We watched Man with the Iron Fist last night. It's bad.
So good.
It's really good in how bad it is.
Good.
RZA is not a world builder.
Oh my God.
You can apply it with soldiers. You can make an entire army of Sardaukar elite soldiers who are trained on some planet, and they all recruit an apprentice to
an individual.
Yeah, a singular individual will replace them in the main unit over time. So the unit is always the most powerful fighters in the world because you have to supplant your master. You have to learn everything they know and then learn more. I taught you everything you know, but not everything I know. And I feel like that's such a great thing to be applying in this idea is you're teaching these guys how to do things, but then they eventually do have to just take over.
And here's the thing where I actually disagree with you. I think that I think what makes the rule of two interesting is the idea that we are working against each other. that I have to supplant you, or my interest is in keeping my own power, but I need an apprentice to help me maintain my own power.
Interesting.
And my own skill and my, right? Like,
yeah, okay.
Because otherwise, and I mean this seriously, I'm not trying to be funny. Otherwise, you just end up with basically what Yoda said in The Last Jedi, which is we are what they grow beyond, which is true, but it's like it's the idea of the master apprentice is for the apprentice to exceed the master.
Yep.
In a normal, like, neutral leaning good.
Yeah.
I think the competition element is what makes it really interesting.
I think you're right. I think you're right the more I think about it. I think I'm going with I'm trying to, like, steer it away from the Sith version of competition, but I think you're right. Just like straight competition.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be
murder.
It doesn't have to be even all that personally conflicted. It could just be like, like you can be in competition and be like, it's a friendly rivalry of like, I'm trying to stay this, like, I'm trying to make sure you don't pass me. I'm improving too because I want to be improved. But then like, you did pass me. Like you can be happy for that and be like, I'm really proud of you, son, or whatever. Like you did it. And you can have the different dynamics for different versions.
Right.
Like you can have the one guy who's actively trying to harm his apprentice because he's like, I fucking hate, I need this power. I need this job or whatever. I will undermine them. And you have the guy who says, like, I went and learned this thing. You should check it out. Right. Like, and they can be like, I'm still making sure I'm better than you because I am better than you, but I'm not going to keep you in the dark. I want to help you learn.
Right, because you being good helps me be good,
and it
helps me get better,
and it makes my legacy better.
Correct.
Because then I think a huge part of this becomes the legacy of because you have a straight line of lineage,
completely straight down.
Yeah, because there's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You don't have a tree. You have a perfect legacy that is clearly able to be tracked.
Documented.
So then you want to have people who take over for you, be people who you like, respect, and who will be better than you.
It'd be a great moment in a character's backstory to find, where you're out on a mission with a party and you find a lineage of masters, of blacksmiths or sword mages or something. Mm-hmm. And then the last one in line is one of the members of your party.
Yeah, perfect. That's like... And when you figure that out, like while you're all in the same room, and you're like, "Oh shit!" And you're like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "Yeah, that is. I need to find an apprentice one day. Like I took over for my master, and I don't have an apprentice, and that's why I'm on this quest is to find."
It's a gretake backstory.
To find the person.
It's a great backstory. It's like, why didn't you tell us? Well, you never asked.
Yeah. And I want to correct something I said, where I said you want to have the person be better than you, and that might not necessarily be true. You could have an instance where a master picks a weak apprentice because they're a narcissist and they're like, I want to be the one, I want to be the greatest of this line, and I want everybody to look back and say, oh, if only we could have back John. Like what a king that guy. Like Absolutely. He was so good. Like you can have that because you're deploying this system across so many professions, and not all professions, but like a large, like say like 10% of the population is in this kind of system or less, but like it's enough where it's like, oh, it's notable, but it isn't, it isn't too uncommon.
I agree. I think it's fascinating. I love the rule of two. I love all of the implications and applications we just talked about are great. I love Darth Bane setting it up. I love the story of like how he used it to make order out of a chaotic Sith civil war. The whole thing is brilliant.
Yeah. Look into it if you want.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, then let's move on to your idea. Or the thing that you really love in Star Wars. We haven't teased it, so we don't know.
I love a lot in Star Wars.
No way.
Yeah, shocking. I said before, there are a few things that I think the Disney World has actually, the Disneyverse, the new Disney canon, whatever you want to call it, has actually done well. Two of those things being the changes that they made to kyber crystals.
They changed it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to get into this in a second. And in The Mandalorian, the introduction of Beskar steel.
Beskar's cool.
Here's why. Originally, in the original expanded universe, there was no Beskar steel. I think the Mandalorian armor was made out of some very strong metal, but it wasn't this hyper rare material. Yeah. In the And then lightsabers were made, they could be made out of organic crystal. They could be made out of a home-built crystal or a synthetic crystal. And Sith very famously made their own synthetic crystals so that they could make sure that they would turn red, because that was their whole shtick, right? But it was much more flexible. Both of those things were much more free, which to me always kind of drove me crazy. Why are stormtroopers walking around without fucking jetpacks and Boba Fett style armor? Why don't they have rocket launchers in their knees the way that the Mandalorians? If that makes no, you're telling me the Empire would not have reverse engineered that shit? You're telling me that no one over the thousands of years that lightsabers existed thought to reverse engineer one and give them into civilian hands or use them for civilian paramilitaries or something? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And changing those from lightsabers must be made out of a very specific type of crystal by narrowing the field of what those things can be made out of properly makes them special and answers that question of why are these things rare.
So kyber crystals are then a specific type of crystal that are super rare and thus a Jedi has to go on a vision quest basically to find their crystal. Okay.
And more importantly, the Sith do not go on a vision quest, so to speak, to find a crystal. Their rite of passage is they have to go out, kill a Jedi unarmed, and then, quote unquote, bleed the crystal, which is to basically use the dark side to break the crystal's attunement with the dead Jedi, which causes it to turn red. And that's why all of their lightsabers are red, because they're bleeding the crystal.
Jesus Christ.
And then it's really cool. That's a great trial. That's a great trial by fire, right?
Yeah.
And there is furthermore, another great ritual that comes after that, which is purifying the crystals, which is when a Jedi, a sufficiently powerful Jedi, like basically heals a bled crystal and turns the crystal from red to white.
Yeah.
That's why Ahsoka has white lightsabers, because she found Sith lightsabers that took them, or killed the Sith and took their lightsabers and purified them, and then they became white. And I'm like, that's it links, it makes the Jedi, it makes the lightsaber so much more actually intrinsically part of the Jedi and the Sith than beforehand, where it was really just a tool that could be replicated by anybody. Because even in the original drawings, Ralph McQuarrie had stormtroopers wielding lightsabers.
Yeah. But then you want to make them special, because in a world with blasters, it's like, well, why would you have a sword? And it's like,
why wouldn't everybody have these things?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And same with the Mandalorian armor. Why wouldn't everybody have these things? But with the introduction of Beskar steel, suddenly, and building the whole religion around their armor and the weapons, and this is the way, it suddenly becomes this whole thing. I thought those were two changes that they made that were actually really, really cool.
Yeah. So I feel like the lightsaber, like the kyber crystals in particular, and this ritual where the Sith go and kill to take the thing, is like, that's a really cool ritual we could probably build around. Play with,
yeah. Because the nature of evil is not to create, it's to corrupt.
Yeah. The idea that you must take from your rival faction to ascend into full membership of your faction is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And the intensity with which you set that trial makes a big difference. So in this is the most intense version possible.
Sure.
Is you need to literally kill them with your bare hands when they have a lightsaber.
Yep.
And then
proving your skill.
And then take the weapon and make it your own.
And dominate it.
Yes.
And break its connection and subjugate it to yourself. Like, it is so Sith.
So say you have two religious factions, and it's you have like a cult sect, and then you have like the major religion, and the cult, to join, you need to convert like a member of the clergy of the main religion to the cult to ascend.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to mentally break this person through conversation and conviction,
manipulation.
And you need to get them on your side somehow. So it's a much smaller group, but like the people who are in it are the most savvy, suave conversationalists, manipulators, deceivers, whatever.
Very similarly, you could take it like we did on one of your ideas about I forget what episode we were talking about. If you're a blacksmith, your rite of passage is to take something that someone else has created, destroy it, and remake it as your own thing. So taking a masterwork blade that someone has made, destroying it and reforging it into your own weapon somehow.
Yeah, we did that. That was with crowns.
With crowns, yeah.
Yeah, but say like if you want to become a master blacksmith, you need to like, do you just acquire? Do you like?
I think it's up to you. I imagine it would be up to you how you acquire it.
Yeah, because then it could be you take one of your master's pieces of masterwork and break it and reforge that. It could be
given with permission if you wanted. It depends how contentious you want the relationship to be.
Yeah,
but the idea that your success depends on changing something that someone else has already considered complete, on improving on something that someone else has already considered complete, is real cool.
Yeah, it's the
and if you want to be evil, then it's corrupting. But
because I think there's two ideas within it. Is that what we just said is complete, is fixing improving upon a thing that was considered to be complete, and the corrupting and defeating a rival in a meaningful way to keep going. And I feel like those are two different ideas that have been married in this ritual, and you can take them both as separate and then apply them, or you can take them whole cloth, but using them whole cloth, you kind of end up in the Sith category again. Yeah. If you separate it, you have a bit more flexibility to make it not Sithy.
Yeah. I want your idea about the cult having to convert someone for the clergy. We've been using it only nefariously. It's like, I have to corrupt. The Jedi version, though, is you have to purify.
Yeah.
So what if the only way you can advance in the clergy is to purify a member of the cult?
Yeah.
And so you just have this revolving door of people converting each other's members back and forth.
That's funny.
That it would be, I mean, that's a lighter take on it, but it would be, it's sort of like in business when people just keep going back and forth from company to company. I could imagine you'd have NDAs built. It'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, and like, that's not super novel or foreign, the idea of like, to join this order of paladins, you need to go and finish a quest. You need to conquer, you need to kill some great evil, whatever. It's like, that's kind of normal, but it's the like the more human mundanity of it that I think, where it's like, this is just a rival who lives across town and I need to one up them. Like that, I feel like that's where it gets more exciting and interesting, because it becomes so much more grounded in consequence, rather than like go on a great adventure to like advance. It's like, well, that's a pretty typical trope. But if you're like, okay, either do an evil, nefarious thing to advance, or do a thing that feels like it is a really human thing you need to do excellently.
Well, and the more human it is, the harder it gets, because then suddenly your success in a quest, your success is largely dependent on you and your skill. With this type of thing, the more human it gets, it's like, well, your success also kind of depends on the other person a little bit. Like, you can't control that, it changes it a little bit. I've been thinking also a lot, because this has all been very much on the Kyber Crystal lightsaber side. The one thing that I will say that stuck to me, the Beskar steel also narrowing the requirements for which it can be made, building the religion around it. Great. One thing that I thought was really interesting there is that the focus of joining orders is most often weapons. And I like that the Mandalorians shifted it with the Beskar steel to having it be armor instead of a weapon.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
It
says a lot.
It's very small, that the armor becomes your identity. You never take your helmet off, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I like that. It's like, it's not about, I need to go out and build my lightsaber. It's like, no, I've earned my armor.
Yeah.
this thing that keeps me safe and is also my weapon, but it's I just like that it wasn't a focus on a weapon, it was a focus on the armor. And like having the blacksmith as the head of the religion, I really liked that.
Yeah, it's a very good point. But that is cool. So and it's very symbolic.
Very symbolic. So like thinking about it, shift away, don't always make it about, oh, I'm on the quest for this holy avenger, this sacred blade. It's like, no, I want the +3 armor.
Yeah.
That's my goal here, is to get this armor.
Yeah.
This shield.
I am a protector. I need the things that protect. I need to make sure that I stay around. Mm-hmm. So I need to, like, that is, survival is core to who I am, not heroism.
Right.
And I can be a hero better if I survive.
Right.
It's the seeking of glory means people are seeking weapons and whatever. But it's like, well, what if I'm seeking justice and like helping others and yada yada? And it's like, then you probably want a shield or armor, something that means that you can actually protect people and yourself better.
Well, and you could make it evil also to say, I need to make sure that no one can touch me so that I can stay around and work out my nefarious schemes.
Yeah.
So
true.
I need this shield to keep me safe in this armor.
The Sith could instead be killing Mandalorians to take their Beskar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be a great that would be a great story.
Yeah,
but
they should do that.
They should absolutely do that.
Especially because it feels like it'd be easier to kill them because they don't have lightsabers.
Yes. Or force powers.
But Beskar does, you can't go through.
It resists a lightsaber, but even still,
eventually.
I don't think it stops force lightning. So there's that. But I lost my train of thought. Anyway, cool idea. I like the shifting of it from a focus on a weapon to a focus on an armor. Even if you want to make it evil, like I love the idea in D&D terms of having a good aligned death cleric and an evil aligned life cleric.
Yeah.
I like flipping that a little bit because life cleric, we're the healers. We're most often the good guys. Death clerics we're obsessed with death. And it's like, no, I want to flip that.
Yeah.
And I like this. I like make it about something more defensive, but then think about how can it be an evil oriented character.
Yeah. Small shout out to Dragon Age the Veilguard. Not a particularly good game, but some good world building they have a order of necromancers and they're like good necromancers. They are, they respect death and, but they live in like a necropolis. It's very creepy and like has this death element to it, but they're not evil. They are fully like, we respect the dead and we want to make sure death rituals are done well. And lichdom is a reward to continue to do this thing.
Good work.
To do good work. And if you use lichdom for evil, you are cast out of the order.
I love that.
But to become a lich is like actually like a holy task.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
It's the best piece of world building that game did. Otherwise, the game is not very good.
Mid.
But
it's, as the youth say, it's pretty, and we're going off on another tangent. My last word on this is you suddenly realize having this conversation why the Hippocratic Oath is so important, because all of the knowledge that doctors use to keep people healthy are also what can kill them.
Yeah.
So that's why that oath is really fucking important.
Yes. Because oaths are unbreakable, famously.
In an ideal world.
All right, so we're not going to do a frozen lasagna for this one, but we'll just move on into what stuck for us in this conversation.
I just love all of this shit. Like,
you love Star Wars.
It's awesome. I love Star Wars. I still love the EU, but I think for me,
I love the EU too. Pro Europe.
Yeah, very much so. I think what stuck for me is two things. One is in the rule of two, getting to the importance of the conflict in the relationship.
Yeah, it's good. It was a really good note.
I think that is what makes it interesting and distinct from other master-student relationships, because you're not supposed to set them up for success. It's very different. The other thing
you can, but you don't necessarily have to. You have the variety, which means you have conflicts and non-conflicts.
Exactly.
And you get what makes it work in a real world setting of. Not everyone's trying to kill each other. Sometimes they're trying to help each other, sometimes they're not, because that's how people are.
Totally. I also love the vertical lineage.
Yeah.
I think that's
a good visual.
On the in the Kyber crystal side, the way that they aligned the Sith philosophy, all of their philosophies, and had that trial by fire ritual become such a natural extension of that philosophy of dominance and corruption and power is so spine-chillingly well done.
Yeah.
Like, it's so smooth. It's so great. And I hadn't really fully appreciated that until we started getting into it.
Yeah. That's a good point.
What stuck for you?
I think I liked pretty much everything we discussed as well. I think the idea of the party member who is he's like the last, like he's the current lineage of the Blade Master or whatever. I think that's,
and no one knows.
And or people are finding out because he's just been humble about it. Like that's really good. And I liked I like the idea that it's his quest to go find an apprentice worth taking.
Yeah.
He's in the party looking for
great motivation.
Looking for like every combat. He's willing to jump into the combat because he's like, I want to fight somebody and have them best me or, give me a good run so I can say, will you be my apprentice?
It's very Goku from Dragon Ball. Like he's always like that.
A little
like,
niche, but
trying to God, I fucking hate you so much.
Yeah, it's like it's a look at being out there just looking for someone who can one day surpass you is a cool motivation and not a common one you see in like a D&D party. And I'm a big fan that if you're playing an RPG, you need to have a motivation for your character to do the dumb stuff. To be in conflict.
That's a great point.
Because otherwise you're going to be a drag on the party in sometimes.
Absolutely.
So like you need to you need to be malleable to go forth, or you need to be like, I'm the one who's going to jump in. And you don't need 4 people who all jump in because that doesn't work either. No. But you need it's helpful, and I always try to make sure my character has a reason to want to jump.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then I think the conversation about the shield and armor thing is really cool because now I really want the Sith to go try to take out the Mandalorian,
fucking kill the Mandalorian
to get that Beskar.
That'd be so great.
That is because the Sith and Jedi don't wear much armor, but they should. If you look at in the Old Republic artwork and in the video games, whatever, the armor for the Guardians, the warrior Sith and Jedi is really common. That makes sense.
Well, and the Sith,
why not give these why aren't they going out there looking for fucking Beskar armor? Why aren't the Jedi also killing Mandalorians to take their armor?
Why? But here's the other thing that would be great is in the KOTOR games. I remember there were these things, and I remember it because of the name, where there were Sith Blade Masters that used actual swords. They didn't use lightsabers. Mm-hmm. And the masterwork was the Sith Tremor Sword. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that name was great, so that's why it stuck.
Yeah.
But it was made out of cortosis, I think, which could interrupt or block lightsabers. Uh-huh. And all you would need is to bring back the order of the Sith Blade Masters and have their final test to be go out, kill a fucking Mandalore, Ian, and take their armor and reforge it into a tremor sword.
That's cool.
That would be great. That would be so great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's what stuck for us. This is a new format, so please let us know if you have any feedback on this type of format.
Thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah, because so please feel free to give us any feedback as we continue to iterate on the idea of the Takeout show. We like the idea, and we hope you do too.
Let us know what stuck for you.
Yeah, that as well.
Thanks for listening. May the Force be with you.
And also with you.